Welcome to Beyond the Chutes is presented by Parasite Systems. We're your host, Doug Simcox, and my co-host,
Sam Swearingen,
two-time North America Rodeo Commission Saddle Bronc Ride Champion. You notice I got this right? It was a few episodes ago I said 3 times. Wishful thinking on my part, maybe your part.
Very wishful.
Very wishful. 2 times North America Rodeo Commission champion. BTC Sam, we were on the bus all together for the first time in a very long time.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I just pulled in a few minutes ago, and I was doing it as I was driving down the road for the last one, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So had to make the trip from the Kickback Ranch down there at Jerry and Mindy's and
Jerry Todd.
IPRA
rodeo announcer, Jerry Todd.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they got a great facility there for camping, and they provided me with a room last night. So
Zipped up here. Great to have you, and good that you rolled safe. And just a reminder to all of our cowboys, cowgirls going down the road right now, pulling the big rig. Sam, what's your bit of advice?
Pay attention.
Yeah.
Lord knows we used to drive when we're, 3/4 of the way asleep. And pay attention. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
You can miss a rodeo.
Yeah.
You don't want to,
Yeah.
but you can.
But you can.
And when you're 25, you don't think so.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's...
Well, what I noticed, hadn't been driving a big rig, and we're a bit long, and you haul the big rig too, truck and trailer and everything. Been a while, driving pickups and such around the back roads, and maybe drive a little bit too close and, in the cars. And it took me a little bit yesterday as I got back on the road. Boy, you got to back it off.
Yeah, and something like this, and the bus, and I always told them with the livestock, I don't care if you're tired, we're going to leave early enough you can get there, pull over and sleep. I can't pick up bulls just anywhere, or horses, bucking horses, to put on a rodeo.
Right.
Pull over and sleep.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
as it ended up, one after I sold out, and I had the truck and trailer, and he fell asleep with a load of cattle on going to slaughter, and tipped it over. I was at Las Vegas, and he called me up and he said, I put it on the side. I said, what do you mean you put it on the side? Well, the next day I found out, because it was like 2 in the morning when he called, he put it over on the driver's side in the medium, just because he fell asleep, just instantly.
Yep.
So be careful, people.
We had Bishop on here the last episode, and Bishop's going to join us here throughout the afternoon as well. We're actually sitting in Bishop's house, so how could out in his driveway? So how can we not include Bishop, right?
Yeah, and I mean, he's the host, I guess. And I bet when you seen that Mustang when you pulled in, you were ready to go to the racetrack, weren't you?
1971 fastback Mustang with a 351 Cleveland. Not a Windsor.
I was going to say, not a Windsor.
Not a Windsor, a Cleveland. 4-speed, decked out, beautiful interior, car show. He shows it at cars.
Oh, great.
I'm sorry, he shows it at car shows. Did I get that right?
You got it.
I finally got it right. Yeah. Well, one of these points, I'll learn how to speak a little bit better.
You won't have to worry about me taking it, because I get sick on a simulator, so you're good.
Oh, my goodness. So, eyes up, be careful, pay attention to where you're going, what you're doing. And we so are appreciative that you're listening to us, and hopefully we help the evenings and the miles, and we keep you awake. So Sam and Bishop and Marlon and everybody, if you got anything, shout loud, because at a certain point we don't want to lull them to sleep during this episode, okay? So speaking of someone that's going to keep us awake, we have with us a very special guest, IPRA Rodeo Cowboy, Mr. Marlon Harris.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Good to have you on BTC. And I just want to say before we get started, thank you. Thank you for all the help you have given as you help direct the podcast and where we're going to go and who we're going to see. And you've got a Rolodex at, 10,000 names. How many names you got in there?
Quite a few, and probably the best part of my life is all the great friends that I met across the world, and you can't beat having a bunch of great friends that you rodeoed with all those years, and we're still family.
You bet.
Still family today.
You bet. And, Sam and I talk about this all the time. There's memories of great rides, right? And those are short and pretty crisp. And some get embellished a bit, I suppose, as time goes on. but boy, the memories and the relationships and everything that we put together.
Yeah, did I ever tell you how good I was, Doug?
3 times North America. Oh, wait a minute. Let me back up.
I was, but yes, and everybody asks about, do I miss the rodeo business? Yeah, I miss parts of it, but it's the people. Yeah. It is the people, right from the contestants. Sometimes wasn't so fun, but they're good people. Yeah. And sometimes they were right, and sometimes I was, but they're good people, and the committee people that you've been doing rodeos for 30 years, it's their family.
You bet. So speaking of families, Marlon, take us back. Earliest memories, dude. Earliest memories. Bring us up through.
Well, I tell everybody that I didn't find rodeo, found me. And I was working at a little stable down near my mom and dad's house down in Austell, Georgia, called Sweetwater Stables. And I was actually breaking colts and riding old horses that nobody else wanted to get on and trying to get them ready for the hack line. So I was sitting there one day, and this group of cowboys pulled up at the stable. And, man, I don't know, it might have been a convertible Cadillac back then. I don't know. It was a nice vehicle, and they were dressed to the max. And I don't know how they got to that stable, probably to see some of the ladies that might be renting horses there. They'd met somewhere, maybe, I don't know. So they said, "How you doing there?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm doing real good." They said, "How's this breaking these horses? Is it paying pretty good?" And I said, "Well, not paying real good right now." And he said, "Well, there's a rodeo coming to town down here in Fairburn, Georgia at the Holiday Downs quarter horse track. And it's going to be a professional rodeo. It's going to be the big guys are going to be there." And said, "Why don't you just come on down?" And so me and my buddy Dennis Jordan, he was a great rider. He didn't really want to ride rough stock. So we cruised down to Fairburn, Georgia, and we go to the contestant gate. And we're back there, and they didn't have a real list. So Dennis said, "We're riding." And I said, okay, we're riding. All right. So I walked back there, and I'm behind the chutes and everything. And all of a sudden, some guy come up to me and said, "Did y'all really sneak in, or were you really riding?" And said, "I got an extra horse here, and I need somebody to mount him out." And I said, "Well, I have no equipment." And Dennis said, "He's riding. He'll ride." And the next thing I know, there was people giving me chaps, a glove, a rigging, a hat, spurs. And 15 minutes later, they said, "Here's a cowboy," and they didn't even call my name out because they didn't know me. It was the guy that was supposed to ride. Old bucking horse comes out of the chute, runs straight down the arena, and hits the panel at the back end and falls down, and I jump off, and the crowd went wild. And I looked up, and I said, "I really like this." I said, "This is pretty cool." Well, there was no high school rodeos. There wasn't no rodeo schools. There wasn't junior rodeos like they are today. They said, "Well, there's another rodeo right up the road next week, but you're going to have to buy a card." So sure enough, buddy, Thurston Hamrick come up to me and sold me a rigging, and somebody sold me some spurs, and I went to the rodeo the next, bought me a card, called the IRA office and bought me a card and went to the rodeo, got on one, and man, here again, I loved it. And so then the next week came and I got on another one, and then all of a sudden they said, "Loretta Lynn's putting on a rodeo down here in Decatur, Georgia. She's going to be singing there." And I think Bill Duplessis was announcing then, and great rodeo. Bobby and Lenore were there. And next thing I looked at this list, and I said, I'm riding against, I've been riding bulls too a little bit, but I looked there and I saw, well, this is Butch Stewart and Richard Johnson and Mike Duplessis. And I said, I got to ride against these guys. They said, there ain't anything else. And next thing you know, I'm on again and going, and I just fell in love with it. You just couldn't get enough of it. And so the next week, they said, there's a gentleman over here out of Franklin, Tennessee, that came from Texas named Mr. Preston Folks. And he's got some of the rankest stock that you've ever seen in your life. But let me tell you, it's not a place for the weak. If you're not real tough and you are kind of a little weak, it may not be where you want to go. So the next week, here I come, right over here to Scottsboro, Alabama, right where we're at today. got on a bull, got on a horse, loved it. And Mr. Preston, he had all this really ranked stock, and he also had some stock that a lot of the guys didn't want to get on. So the way I learned to ride was they would turn these horses out, and they didn't want to get on them. And instead of paying a $25 fine, I would get there and I'd mount them out for them. Some nights I'd get on 4 horses, sometimes maybe 4 bulls. And all I ever asked the guys to give me was help me. Mm-hmm. And this is like Butch Stewart, Richard Johnson, Mike Duplessis, and all I asked that they would help me. And that was my rodeo school. And it was just wonderful. And funny story, Mr. Preston, I got on so many horses that he finally gave me 4 names. He called me Malcolm, Marion, and here's his other brother, Marion. And he'd have me an extra shirt or 2, and he said, "You're my man."
You're my man.
But Mr. Folks, he was a good man with a big heart, but it was a no-nonsense rodeo. His motto was, "Is this where the tough get started? Or you better be tough." And Bishop probably remembers this, but he also, if you were in the calf roping event, you better be pretty tough there, because if you could jerk a calf down, he would give you the calf. And the calf usually, when you run down the road, the calf was usually coming back towards you.
Oh, wow.
And it was great. But he was
the mama cows at the other end, too.
And Mr. Preston, so neat about him is if the horse or bull would not leave the arena, Mr. Folks would get on this big gray horse, and he'd be tied off hard and fast, and he would rope that bull and bring him back, or he'd rope a horse by the front leg and bring him in. You know, he was such a bigger-than-life man, and I remember going to his rodeos, and I was on the work list, and I was part of everything that went on, and his mount out man and everything. But I remember the first time that I started going across the river, and Mr. Folks said, "Now, you know, when you go over there, they're not going to treat you like I'm going to treat you here now." And I said, "Well, I got to try it." And he said, "You go on out there and they'll starve you to death. You'll be coming back." And sure enough, a couple of years there, it was pretty tough. Like I said, there was so many great riders out there when you did go, and it was a no-nonsense deal. But I came back every time, and he'd say, "I told you you'd come back." I said, "I'm back, but I'm going back." And he'd laugh at me, and we just had a great time. And I think, you know, if I could go and sit down with anybody like we talked before, it would probably be him, because he always had a lot of wisdom, honest, and he respected you. If you tried hard, you tried his animals hard, he would praise you. But there wasn't a lot of nonsense. And as I said, you know, when you come here, you better be tough, because it's tough livestock, tough rodeoing.
And he was kind of fun in his own way. I know he would get up early after rodeo. He and my dad, they'd get out and they'd drink their coffee. Then they'd go onto the bleachers to see who could find the most coins. And they'd brag about it. "Oh, I found more than you did." That was every rodeo, every morning. They'd get up and look for coins.
So, Bishop, there was 5 buckles. I mean, was Vernon one, or your dad that had one of the buckles?
Dad had one.
Yeah, he had one, and there was another gentleman.
Ed Townsend had one.
And Sam Floyd.
What buckles are you talking about?
Above and beyond the call of duty buckle.
Buckles.
Mm-hmm.
From?
Nelson Sylvia Buckles.
From Preston.
From Preston?
Yes.
How did you get a buckle? How were you awarded a buckle?
Daddy, just working around and opening gates and stuff like that. So he gave Dad one, Ed Townsend, which was the announcer, and he gave a friend of ours from here, Earl Weatherington, one.
And Sam Floyd.
That was the 3 that he gave.
Yeah, and Sam Floyd from over there in
Yes, Sam
Georgia.
Floyd got one.
That was Aubrey Floyd's dad.
And I think my brother has got Dad's buckle.
Now, is this the Floyds from South Georgia?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, Aubrey and Mr.
Gerald's
Sam. Yeah,
dad.
Gerald and Aubrey Floyd. And then Sam was like, him and Mr. Preston were just, they grew up in my hometown. And Mr. Preston just loved Sam, and Sam was he'd go out and help find bucking horses. He was part of them. And actually, Aubrey was a great calf roper, and he only missed the IRA finals by about $50 in the steer wrestling.
Yeah.
And that's when Charlie Battles, Reba McIntyre's former husband, won the world that year in the IRA. So that's kind of how I got started. And then my dad, he just always wanted me to go to college, and there was no, he had been saving money for me ever since I was a little boy, and he said, I ask one thing of you, that you'll just please go to college, and after you get that degree, I don't care where you go, rodeo as much as you want to. So I was 17 when I started, and then I went down to college, and it was great because the IRA was perfect for me. To go to college, I had all the Longhorn rodeos I could go to and get back to school, and I had Mr. Preston's rodeos to go to all summer and in the fall and spring. So the IRA was perfect for me. There wasn't any PRCA rodeos in the East, and I've never owned a PRCA card in my life. Mm-hmm. So after I got out of college, I really busted it wide open, and I guess there for a while I tried to put my own rigs together, and it seemed like I was trying to help other people. Just if they had gas money, I'd invite them to go with me. And then I found out, I said, I really need to get into a crew, and I need to get into, you're only as good as who you travel with, right, Sam?
Amen.
So some people, I was really lucky enough to get in to a group of guys, and it was the Rob McDonald Group in the blue van. And I got to tell you, it was a privileged time in my life that I was lucky enough to get in there, because we had Rob McDonald, world champion bull rider, Doyle Stanford, the world champion bull rider, John Wilson, the stunt man for J.W. Coop, Jerry Easley, Benny Jordan, who recently just passed away. He was in there with us, and Stan Runyons, and there would be other people that would come and ride with us. In fact, Marty Martins traveled with us on the 4th of July when he wrote the article for the cover of the Rodeo News. And these guys were so good that my riding improved 30% right away. And we would start, the motto in that van is fast, you go fast and you go faster. And that's because we never went anywhere slow. We went wide open everywhere we went. So we would start down in South Texas about Wednesday, or East Texas at Gerald Smith's rodeos, and he had all them great bucking horses and bulls. And then we would travel up into Oklahoma the next night to David Bailey and Hall's rodeos, then up into Missouri to the next night about Friday to go to 77 Ranch rodeos. And then if you could go into Chicago, you could go to 3 rodeos a day a lot of times, because you could go to Slack in one, and then they would be an afternoon performance and a night performance. And all those people, Laddings, had those rodeos, Big Hat, just wonderful rodeos. And then we would end up on Sunday at J-Bars in Michigan. And every time you pulled in there on Sunday, you was pretty tired, and they were pretty big, and they were pretty rank. But I got to say one thing about the rodeo people, and Sam and I were talking about this earlier. They treated us so good everywhere we went. Stock contractors, the committees, the families that were there with their families judging or anything. It was a great place to be and everything. And I guess later on, that van burned down between Live Oak, Florida and Jacksonville on the side of I-10. And I think Rob kind of went to the PRCA then, and we all kind of went our own separate ways. And so I got into it. The gas crunch started. The gas went sky high, not as high as today, but the Bulldoggers, not a lot of road stock riders traveled with time dividers. It just seemed like we had our crew and they had their crew. Well, Bruce Emery down in Texas, he decided he was going to put a crew together, and he's going to haul some bareback riders and bull riders and pull a horse trailer. And we went everywhere together, and Joe Beard was in there with us, and Bobby Gillis, world champion, and Robert Chambers, a lot of just great people. We went to Thunder Bay, Ontario to that rodeo. We went everywhere, and it was a great crew to be in too. And I think that was the start of everybody traveling together. And there's one character that we're going to do an interview on, and his name is Lee Mite, better known as Termite. And Termite he was always famous, but he never owned a horse. But he was a great calf roper, and he actually ended up runner-up to the world in the IRA and never owned a horse. Traveled with rough stock riders. Yeah. He said, y'all are a lot more fun. So, and then later on, finally, I remember the quotes from Larry Mahan. And Larry, he was everybody's hero. He was the first businessman of rodeo, and I really admired him and everything he did. And he made a comment one time that really stuck with me in his book or whatever, and it said, if you're going to be a rodeo cowboy, you've got to learn that you're going to be hungry a lot, you're going to be tired a lot, you're going to be riding hurt, and you're going to have to travel. And it's just like I told everybody when we would go to those rodeos in Texas, you could shake a tree and there'd be 10 bareback riders and 10 bull riders that never left that town, that could really ride, but they couldn't handle the highway. And the highway was pretty tough. So, and then Larry Mahan in that book, he made a comment. He said, you also have to be mature enough to know when to quit. And that was a very important statement, because if you stay too long, you're going to get hurt bad, and why? So I think that was the best part of my thinking. And then I was lucky enough to land this great job in the veterinary and pharmaceutical business, and stayed in that business 35 years and just retired about 5 years ago. But it seemed like the good Lord put me at the right place at the right time, and I miss it a lot. I don't miss the corporate world, but I miss the people, the veterinarians, and I probably still talk to my rodeo friends a lot more than I do people I work with. Even they're just so busy. They're still working, and I'm riding around fishing. Yeah. So I'm really glad you guys had me here. It's a real honor. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's great to have you here. And backing up a little bit, 17, you discover rodeo, you start riding, and like zero experience prior to that. However, you were quite the athlete in high school.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was playing ball. I played ball like us all did for a long time, and I thought I was going to go play small college football, and I actually really wanted to be a professional water skier. But it seemed like I was a little bit more talented in riding horses, and I was a fair water skier, and I was a pretty fair football player, but it wasn't nothing like the rodeo. Once I started going to Loretta's rodeos and watching Loretta come out there and sing, and all the cowboys would come down in front at intermission, and we would sit there in the front watching her sing and having her come behind the chutes, her and her husband, and we were just all family. But one thing I do remember about Loretta usually this is what went on, is we would all come out and sit in the front of the stage, whether it be Nashville or any of the rodeos that Loretta put on, and she would sing How Great Thou Art, and it would bring you to tears. And Sody Fleming, the late Sody Fleming, he would stand up and take his hat off and say, kind of praying, and the crowd just loved it. And that was her final song of her set, everything she did. But I got to tell you, rodeo was a wonderful time. It was wonderful for me, and I was mature enough, as Larry Mahan said, time to quit.
So when did you quit? You started at 17, going hard, while you're going to college and everything. You did get your 4-year degree.
Yeah.
You did what your dad said to do.
Took 5 years.
Took 5 years. That's all right. That's
I'm
all right.
surprised it didn't take 7.
So you got your degree.
Right.
And then you said, I'm hitting the road kind of as planned.
Yeah.
How old were you when you retired?
I quit when I was 33. Reason that I had broken my foot in 7 places, called osteomyelitis, and I was working at the time, started. And the way I actually got started working is I had a sponsor in Davie, Florida, which was one of my very best friends. It was a small sponsorship, but a great one. And he gave me clothes, and I did some marketing for him, and to try to get some experience on my resume, because I knew sooner or later I had to go to work. And he actually went to the first company to help me get my first job. And he told me, he said, I'm going to help you, but it's on your own.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of help along the way from a lot of great people.
Okay. And those people you're referring to, that support system, of course, the support system in the van as well.
Right.
And you rattle off all these cowboys, right? These world champions. What made it important? Let me say it a different way. What did you learn from them driving down the road?
Well, this was a tough bunch of cowboys, and when one was riding, they were all around me. They were pulling my rigging. They were cheering me on. And then I rode bulls for several years and wasn't very good, didn't like it at all. So I tried to stick with the bareback riding. But that bull riding, I was on the back of the chutes, and I'd be cheering for them. They'd be cheering for me. And the camaraderie was just unbelievable. I mean, Benny Jordan, who just passed away, was one of the greatest bareback riders all around cowboys. He picked up at the IRA finals 16 times, I think.
Oh, wow.
And his dad, Ben Jordan, was a world champion also. But it was the camaraderie, us getting together and everybody pulling for everybody. And it was a wonderful time in my life. I have to say that.
Yeah, and Sam and I talk a little bit sometimes, 3 hours of, what is it, Sam?
Rodeo, racing, and wrestle.
And wrestling. 3 hours, right? We talk about that, which is really about the mental aspect of things, whether you're a wrestler or a football player, an athlete of any kind, a student of any kind, right? Racing and so forth. So talk a little bit about the mental aspect of the sport versus the physical aspect of the sport.
Well, I'll tell you, it'll take a beating on you. And when you're traveling that hard and that fast, it's a mental trip too. You've got to stay positive all the time, and you got to think positive that you're going to ride every horse good. And it's mentally a tough deal as much as it is physical, because I can remember one time I was down there at Gerald Smith's rodeo, and they were talking about old Cotton Eye Joe, XY11, and you go ask Gerald, said, what chute is he in? He'd say, just walk out there, you'll hear him. He'd be in there snorting and scare you to death. And somebody asked me, he said, was you ever scared? I was scared every time. I was shaking like a leaf. And, it was tough. It was tough. But those stock contractors, J-Bar and all of them, Gerald, they all had tough stock. And you had to be mentally ready. And, some nights it was hard to go to sleep thinking where you was headed. So it was both physical and mental.
Yeah.
Positive attitude for sure all the time.
And the crew was good at, the crew that you hauled with was good about that?
Oh, yes. And there's never no negative in there. Yeah. If you was a negative, you was a sissy.
Yeah.
And there's no place for a sissy in those groups that I was with.
Yeah. And one of the things that we talk about on the show is, how do I get quiet enough to ride? Because it's all muscle memory, right? It's 8 seconds. Everything has to come together automatically based on what the horse does and so forth. Your body knows how to respond. So do you remember how you would quiet yourself as you would crawl over? And maybe a different way is, what was your chute procedure and how did that help you get ready?
Well, I never like to be late, but when you're traveling with bull riders, for some reason they're not in that big a hurry to get there. And so I can remember a lot of times that we would pull up and we'd be putting our spurs on, the bareback riders would, in the blue van with our chaps running to the chute to get on. So there was a lot of times that you just really didn't have a lot of time to think. But the funniest story is Richard Yielding and I were running to the chute in Stafford, Oklahoma somewhere, and we got it mixed up on our horses, and he got on my horse and I got on his horse. And that sucker was raking it, slammed Richard to the ground. I went, I'm not getting on him.
Glad I didn't have that one.
Never mind, we're done.
So, but we went everywhere fast.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Traveled hard.
Travel hard.
Yeah.
And I remember one night driving, it was my turn to bow up and drive, and I left up there in Illinois from Grays Lake, Illinois, and it was my time to drive, and we were headed to Custer, South Dakota. And we figured that we had to average 70 miles an hour, and I think the speed limit had dropped back down to 55 mostly at that time. So we were so prepared to leave, and so I got the van, got it out there, got it ready. The last bull rider in the crew comes running out after he got off his bull, never stopped, think about anything, and then just jumped in the van because I had to get out before the crowd left, and I had to get on the road, and I drove that thing hard all night long. And I don't know if you've been to Custer, South Dakota, but the last 80 miles is switchbacks.
Okay.
So we get out there, and it was Pat Burns' rodeo, and he had a lot of great horses and stuff, and got lucky enough to place, but I was so tired when I got there. Had kind of laid down up under the front of the van, and I looked, and the tie rod, the bolt that was holding the tie rod on, was down to about 2 threads.
Oh, wow.
And it didn't faze anybody.
Yeah.
Everybody went, "Oh, we made it. It's okay. We're here."
Oh, my goodness.
And I actually thank God
Yeah.
right then. I said, "Thank you, Lord. You brought us here."
You bet.
And I think it was tough. So we just got some wrenches and fixed it.
Yeah.
Here we go again.
There you go. Hard as ever.
But scare you to death to
Oh.
see that tie rod like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you talk about your turn to drive. Who managed the band? Or
Well, we would never let John Wilson drive. That was the rule of the thing. 'Cause
I bet that was by his choice.
yeah, because
He probably played games so he didn't have to drive.
no, we didn't let John drive. That was the rule. John, he didn't want to drive. We didn't want him to drive. But everybody just kind of, we could tell when people were getting tired, and
Yeah.
we were on the honor system of bowing up. Let's
Yeah.
drive. It's not my turn, and it's just part of the ritual of what we respect for each other and the rest that we all needed.
Yeah.
But everybody, if you didn't do your part, you weren't going to be in there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I did not want to lose that privilege.
Yeah.
So
you're out, 4 days at a stretch, and then you head back and you get cleaned up and washed up and everything, clothes and everything. Where?
well, Rob had this old farmhouse that it was his family's, and it was in Weldon, Arkansas. Everybody was there. I mean, so we would end up, when we would leave J-Bars, we would usually head back to Weldon, Arkansas, and rest up a couple of days, wash some clothes, and then back down to South Texas we'd head.
Start again.
And I mean, I think I went to well over 100 rodeos that year and got on well over 100 bucking horses. And what a physical thing. But I had the privilege one time that there was this cowboy college down in Texas that this guy Sam did. And there, I don't know if you remember the show on TV, That's Incredible, where all the stuntmen, well, this is where they worked out. So one time, couple of different years, I went down there and spent 30, 45 days at that gym, sleeping in the gym. And Ronnie Williams actually took me under his wing down there. And I mean, we worked out physically. Pete Gate was there working out, all these stuntmen. And Ronnie, he helped me perfect my riding to no end, from my equipment to everything. And Ronnie was a true competitor.
Yeah.
And he was also, I think, a couple of times state champion Golden Gloves, so you never had to get worried about getting beat up. He was really tough.
Were there close calls and fights and other bands or what?
Well, it seemed like we always seemed to run into the bikers in some of these towns. And for some reason, they just didn't like the cowboys. And if you're traveling with bulldoggers like Jack Wiseman and Red Duffin and these guys and Ronnie, you never had to worry about getting beat up. I think Mike Borders was the toughest man I ever knew in my life.
Is that right?
Yeah, and they looked out after us. I mean, old skinny bareback rider like me, I couldn't beat nobody up.
Yeah.
But them bulldoggers, tough. They were good to have around.
Yeah.
And
And-
like Jack, he's the toughest man I got. Toughest man I ever met in my life.
Jack Wiseman.
Jack White.
So you head back to, and I'm getting back into kind of the logistics of things. You head back to Arkansas. You get refreshed, get resupplied, whatever you want to say. Who would set the schedule, and who would do the entries?
Well, Rob was the king. He was the captain. And so we get back there, Richard Yielding, he was a mechanic. So he led the maintenance on the van. Every week we'd come back and, change the oil, get everything ready to go. But we all knew where we needed to be, and we're liable to pull into a town and everybody get on a different payphone and enter, because that was the entry system at first in. So it wasn't nothing for us to pull into a town and get on 5 different phone booths and try to enter the rodeos. Yeah. You had 2 things with you all the time, an atlas and your rodeo news. And we picked the best rodeos that paid the best. And the objective at that time is that you were either going to finish in the top 5 in the world standings, or you were going to win the world.
Okay.
And I believe everybody that was in that van were either a world champion or top 5. And I was lucky enough to be in that group. Mm-hmm. And you had to go to a lot of rodeos, though, and we didn't miss a one.
Yeah.
It was go fast and go faster.
Go fast and go faster. And we had a listener question, and they were curious about the entry system. This is not computerized. This is rotary phones, pay phones, standing at a truck stop or wherever you might be, putting your nickels and dimes in, quarters in, whatever the case. You're talking to somebody. When you're done with that call, do you know when you're up specifically at that rodeo?
Yes.
Okay.
And that was the neat thing about it is, we were a good crew, and the committee, it was good because they liked us and we liked them, and everybody just tried to help you. It wasn't like they wouldn't want to not let you up. They wanted you to be there, and they wanted to help you be there. And the committees were great to us. The stock contractors, like I said, they treated us really good, and they wanted us there, which was good.
Yeah, yeah. And when you rolled in, and you made mention of this, the goal of everybody in the van was either win a world championship or be in the top 5.
Correct.
So when your van rolled in, your competitors are sitting beside you in the seats.
Correct.
Okay, those, right? How did that affect things? You talked about standing on the back of the buck and shooting, cheering your teammates. Was it like a team? Was it like that?
It was, exactly. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to see me win. I wanted to see them win. Mm-hmm. And when I won, they were patting me on the back. And a lot of times it was the draw, good or bad. And it's actually every one of us. I remember traveling with Sam and his brother Mike, and whether they were in your crew or not, they were still pulling for you. Mm-hmm. It's hard to understand that, I guess, because most times people are sometimes for themselves, but it seemed like back then we were all family. Mm-hmm. Whether we were in that crew, your crew, my crew, we were, some of them liable to jump in with us, some of them liable to jump in with them just because they couldn't get in there just right.
And the big difference between rodeo and every other sport, not everyone, but you are not competing against the person. It's the livestock. And yeah, you always make jokes, he rides so good, I'm going to go cut his cinch,
Yeah.
And you're just joking around. And you want to beat them. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
If it's between you and me, I want to be first.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to get beat.
Yeah.
And that's okay, as long as it's part of your crew. When it's not part of your crew, you got a lot of driving or talking about all the way to the next one because you want to fix it.
Yeah.
What other sport would your competitor help somebody else win?
Yeah.
Help them beat you.
Yeah.
No other that I can think of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. Everybody wanted to see everybody win, and it was just, as I said, we were all family. Everybody was. And I can remember, I've known Bishop a really long time. I've known his family, and we have this reunion every year at Labor Day weekend, and Bishop's brother, Mr. Charles, he was our very first Legends Award winner, and they were part of the Folks family.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we go back a long way with all of us, and still friends today.
Yep.
Friends back then.
And I really, being from up north, and I've thought of reunions and stuff and how you do it, but being down here a little bit in the south and in Texas, and you see there's quite a few of them popping up, and it's such a wonderful thing. The Kickback Ranch did one. I drove down special just to be there, and then I heard about Marlins. Okay, so now that's the plan, and now I heard about another one in Texas in July. Well, that might not be a bad idea, Doug.
Yeah.
Take the bus.
We got invited, Sam. We are going to Mountain Cove. I got that right?
Yes.
Mountain Cove, Georgia, the reunion. And for our listeners, if they're interested, how could they get a hold? Could they come in? How does that work?
Everybody's invited.
Okay.
It's like an open rodeo. We got people, ranchers that used to come to that rodeo at Mr. Folks' that come. We have businessmen, we have sheriffs, it's open to the world.
Yeah.
And somebody said, who gets to come? I said, everybody.
Good.
Everybody's invited.
Good.
Sheriffs?
We've had the sheriffs there. We've had different. It's just a great group of people that come, and then we had Jerry Bellis there last year, who got to do the master of ceremonies for us.
Yep.
And we had beautiful ladies singing the national anthem, Katie Wood, and it was great. And we started this Legends Award to honor people, and I guess just to name a couple of them, but Charlie Lowry was one of our past winners, Bill Harris, Sid McFarland, which I hope you get to interview Sid one day.
Trent's dad?
Yes.
Trent's dad.
And so, and I wanted to tell you this real quick too, but that guy that helped me get on that first bucking horse, his name is Ricky Smith. And he was one of the greatest bull riders to ever come out of the Southeast. And he would be making the IRA finals every year, but deer season come, it was over.
It was over.
He wasn't traveling. But he's still today living in the Cove, and they call him the godfather of the Cove.
Okay.
And he's still riding around over there on those mountains on mules and stuff.
Perfect. And that's Labor Day weekend.
That is Labor Day weekend.
So Sam and I will be there with the BTC mobile recording studio, the boss. The boss. Hard to miss us. We're red.
Now, Doug, you're talking about Georgia.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you know where we're going to be the next weekend?
No.
St. Tite, Quebec.
Oh, that's right. We got invited back to St. Tite. We get to go up there and hang out. That big rodeo up there, right? Up in Quebec, the Western Festival de St. Tite.
All I'm getting at, that might
We're gonna
take
be on
me
the road.
6 days to drive it.
I was going to say, are we going to drive from Georgia to Quebec?
I don't know, but somebody asked me, they said, well, you drive more now than you ever did.
Oh, my goodness.
I said, yeah, it's kind of sucks, but the good thing is now I can pull over and sleep when I want to.
Well,
So
especially
it'll
when
take me 6 days.
when you're pulling that great big old trailer you've got, and you get to crawl back in there and go to sleep like you did when you come up through a few weeks ago.
Well, I was going to touch base on why we selected Mountain Cove Farm,
Okay.
because that was where Mr. Preston Folks had his finals. And he had it there every year. So coming up 9 years ago, coming up on 10, I said to my buddies, why don't we go over to Mountain Cove Farm where the finals was on Labor Day? Let's watch Georgia football and sit around. Well, next thing you know, people were driving up, that locals, and next thing you know, it started out about 15 people, and we're expecting 300 this year.
First time I came, it were 50.
Yes.
That's
Now-
3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
How many? 3-4 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
It's grown.
no event going on, no rodeo, no nothing. They just come for that.
Well, luckily, the guy down the road, Ronnie Milligan, has kept the rodeo going all these years.
Oh.
And so 15 minutes down the road is the Kensington Rodeo.
Okay.
And Travis Presley puts it on. Great show, great everything. And so people can not only come to the rodeo, but they can come during the day to our event. And what's really neat is on Saturday, a lot of people come there on Saturday, and as Mr. Charles used to say, well, I'm getting over there to the Liar's Cabin right away. 'Cause I got to go to that Liar's Cabin because I don't want to miss that.
Well, we're talking about Mountain Cove and Preston. Liesl and I were coming in from somewhere up in Missouri. Of course, this was on Sunday and Monday. Saturday night performance, we left, driving to Mountain Cove. Nearly there. Liesl got in the back. I was driving. He was putting makeup on. Got down to the rodeo. He finished putting makeup on. I jumped out, got the mule out, got the rigging on her. Preston was jumping up and down. Where have y'all been?
Yeah.
We got there just in time to go into Grand
Oh
Entry.
my goodness. Oh my goodness.
And that's, if you notice in Liesl's book, there's an episode of Liesl was going to tell this joke, and Mr. Folks and his brother got in an argument that Liesl, you may know it a lot better than me, but tell the story.
One of them said, Preston said, don't you tell that joke. I'll fire you. John said, you better tell that joke or I'll fire you.
And they
got in a fight over it.
I mean, like a fight?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
It sounds like it didn't take much.
It was pretty
They
rowdy.
tore a house down up there.
Yeah, it was tough because I had went there when I was 12 years old. I went there with the Sweetwater Saddle Club. So it was so neat to go there. And then 5 years later, I was riding in the rodeo. And wow, what a treat.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So.
Well, did he tell the joke or didn't he tell the joke?
I don't really know. He never did say whether he told that joke or not.
At that point, it didn't matter. They're both beat up.
There's the entertainment.
John and Preston was the joke when
Yeah.
there was that fight.
Yeah. I can't
Well,
imagine.
Preston was a big guy. How was John? I didn't.
John was big.
He was bigger than Preston.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. I wouldn't want to try to stop it.
Yeah.
And you know, they come from Texas and they brought all this great stock with them. And the Franklin Rodeo was just huge. And it's still going on today. And Scottsboro was big here and Jackson, Tennessee. And Mr. Folks, he put them on. He put them. And crowds were unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like at Franklin, couldn't stand around.
Franklin was huge.
So a little bit of history. So Preston Folks comes out of Texas. Where in Texas? Do you know?
Marfa.
Yeah.
Marfa, Texas.
Marfa.
Better
Marfa,
say that
Texas.
right.
Marfa.
Yeah.
Marfa. M-A-R-F-A.
Right.
Marfa, Texas.
Yeah.
Comes out of Texas and moves to Tennessee because?
They came to play football at Swanee University right up here on.
University of the South.
So
University
they come
of
to
South.
play football. The brothers?
Right.
The brothers came to play football in Tennessee.
Right. University of the South.
In Tennessee or Georgia?
It's Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Yep.
They come to play football in Tennessee.
Swanee, Tennessee.
Swanee. And just stayed.
Yep.
But they come from a rodeo family in Texas? Ranchers?
I think they did.
Yeah.
I'm not for sure on that, but
Okay.
I believe so.
Okay.
And then they started one up here in John.
I'll be darned.
Yeah, and then Presty, his son, they own, is it Lone Star?
Yeah.
The Lone Star
Lone
Radio
Star.
Company.
But
And
Presty doesn't even go.
yeah, he's retired from it. But
He
the
is.
family kept it going.
His son-in-law runs it.
Yeah. The whole family's kept it going, and they're still putting on great rodeos.
Well, we saw his Presty's daughter,
Either
Vanessa.
or Rachel.
Vanessa, her daughter, at the IFR breakaway roping.
Yes.
Yes.
They both qualified for that.
Yep.
So
Yes.
there's four generations for sure.
Yeah, and both those girls are married to really great cowboys. Vanessa's married to Clint Madison, which
Yeah.
his dad was
Calf
one
roper.
Of Clint Madison's probably one of the very best calf horse trainers to ever come out of the South.
Really? Okay.
And then also Rachel is married to Bradley Boyd, which his dad had the big horse sale for years in Bowling Green. And he's also a huge AQHA contestant training horses. And putting some of the best calf horses out in the country.
Okay.
So it's a very talented family. And then the son, I've called him Bubba forever.
Bubba,
he's married to the girl that trick rides that you see all the time, and she's fantastic. I can't remember her name.
I'm trying to think of a few minutes ago.
But she's a UT graduate and worked at the Dixie Stampede.
I was going to say that there's a whole nother connection with a lot of rodeo is the Dixie Stampede. That's how Pemberton, he managed that for a number of years, right?
Yep.
Trick rider out of Tennessee.
Yep, out of Milan, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Married my sister-in-law, Loretta Pemberton now.
Yeah.
Used to be Phillips.
Yeah.
And, yeah, they trick rode together. And actually, Loretta won the world championship at trick riding. They have some special thing, and I didn't even know it. And she had that saddle hanging off her balcony up there. And I said, what's that? And she explained it to me. She's very talented.
Very talented. And they traveled a bunch with Longhorn.
Yeah.
So a couple things. I want to shift to Longhorn here in a moment. But you were talking earlier, you wintered in Davie?
Yeah,
Florida.
After I graduated from college, we all went, Sam, Mike, we all stayed in Davie, Florida, because they had so many winter rodeos down there, and it was cowboy town. Still is. I don't know if it is now. I was through there the other day, but David Morgan had most of the rodeos in Florida, and he also came from Texas too, moved down to Florida, and he had some really tough stock, great rodeos, and he put on the Davie Rodeo. And then there wasn't but two really rodeos in Florida back then. That was Kissimmee and Arcadia, I believe. And so you could rodeo down there, and they had an organization called the Florida Cowboy Association, FCA, and it was probably one of the strongest, tough associations going, because everybody went down there.
It had nothing to do in the winter, so you went to Florida and you could compete. And a guy like me that was young and just starting, David Morgan, say what you want, he was very influential in my bronc riding because he put me on the right stock to help me. Now, I ain't saying he didn't grab my hair and lift me off my feet a time or two in my life, but he really helped me a lot.
So it's really funny is I traveled with Ron Martin and Tom Orr for a while and few years, and so all summer long we'd be up north and we'd be at J Bars and we'd be going to a different rodeo up there, and every day they asked me, when does those rodeos start in Florida?
Yeah.
They wanted to come visit.
Okay.
It's funny, one of the things with David Morgan, I made a really nice ride, and the horse stopped at like 7.5, just parked it, and I was going to be winning the rodeo by a bunch. And I went to the judge and I said, can I get a reride? The judge looked at me, why do you want a reride? I said, well, the horse stopped. And he said, okay. He gave me a reride, and I went back there, and David started ripping me. What the hell were you thinking? And he didn't want to buck another horse. And he had two horses that were outstanding that didn't go that night. It was 26 Honky Tonk and 36 Smart Dugan. I said, well, I figured they were in the reride pen, and he just dropped his head, and he couldn't yell at me because he knew I just wanted to do better, you know. And that horse I had was just outstanding. And,
And David Morgan was a cowboy son of a gun. He rode bareback horses, he rode bulls, he steer wrestled, he picked up. He was just outstanding. He was outstanding.
And in Florida, you met Mike and Sam and that whole crew, and you traveled a bit together.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about some of that travel.
Well, Sam was a little bit younger then, so I mostly had been around Mike. But old Mike, I call him Old Steady, because you just couldn't rattle him, He worked every event, just like Dan Daly. He was the Dan Daly, just like Dan, and worked every event. But I remember one night we left Davie, Florida, in that old motorhome, and somehow or another we hit something, the wheel come off, and it rolled down the hill. And Mike was stout as everything, and you'd think most people would blow up. He'd get really mad. Well, old Mike, he just walked down that hill, picked up that big old tire, and come back and put it on. Never rattled him. Most people would have fallen apart. And so Mike him and I, we had a lot of times there at the end of the year, he was working for a guy named Sam Mariola, which was a wonderful guy in Davie that owned a construction company, and him and his wife both team roped, and he gave everybody jobs. And then there was another guy there in Florida, Martin Woodard, which had a cattle company, and so if you were needing entry fees, you could day work cows out on the ranch. And this isn't like working cows in Texas. These Bremers are pretty rough, and you usually work cows down there in tennis shoes because you really had to do a lot of running. And I tell everybody, you don't need boots in those cow pits. You need tennis shoes where you can run hard.
It was interesting. I went out with David Morgan and gathered cows once, and I mean, these pastures were so big back then that it was down south behind Miami out there somewhere.
Oh yeah, in Arvada.
And I mean, when we were bringing these cattle in, there was deer in amongst the cattle when you was bringing them in. Now they jump out and get out of there, but they were herded right up just like the cattle. It was.
Oh yeah, and David Morgan, he liable to come to the cow pens on the bucking horse you won last week, and then he'd be at the bucking horse street.
Yeah,
he was a real cowboy.
Real good one.
Yeah,
real good one.
Yeah.
But getting back to the point of Florida with rodeos, David had it made because he had contestants that were fantastic that would come down to some of them little $100 ad rodeos, and he'd have contestants everywhere and good ones because there wasn't nothing else to go to in January and February.
Yeah.
Everybody came. Dan Daly come down. I mean, Jerry Bellis, he lived up there in Wauchula, and talk about a tough competitor, that Jerry.
Yeah.
He was a bull rider, and he did everything.
Okay. And you had talked about Longhorn. Longhorn's January, February. So were you running out of Florida up to the Longhorn stuff? Was that kind of where you wintered, Davie? And talk a little bit about Longhorn, if you would.
Well, Longhorn had all these indoor rodeos, as we know, and Bruce was just great. We would leave, like when we went to Pontiac, we left South Florida and went to Pontiac, which was the world's largest one-day rodeo. They only took the top 20 in the standings on Sunday, but they had the slack, and everybody else would come in about Thursday and ride, and then they took the top 20. Longhorn, that rodeo, Bruce was so far ahead of the world. I mean, Pontiac would have been the equivalent of the American today, right, Sam? And we would leave South Florida and go up there, and it was the only thing going, so we would spend three days at the Longhorn Rodeo if there wasn't something else to go to.
Yeah.
And, they had Madison Square Gardens at the time, and it was unbelievable.
Yeah. So you were able to, all winter long, you were able to go. And I got to tell you, in that time era, I should say, Tom Wadrich.
Yes.
All of his great pictures.
Wonderful.
And he traveled with you.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about that and making the cover of the Rodeo News.
Well, Tom, he lived in Chicago, and he was like my best friend. And I'd actually go stay at Tom's house at his apartment downtown in Chicago. And then Joe Pagone had a bar there. And everybody would, after the rodeo, would go there and go to Tom's. And he was just a great friend of mine. And he actually, one time I was at his house in Chicago, and I was entered down in somewhere around Indiana, and he actually drove me down there, and so I could catch a ride with somebody else somewhere. So he was a great friend of mine, and all those pictures, he took that picture. That's at Wakanda, Illinois, and the only person that's not in there is Benny Jordan. He wasn't with us that weekend. And Marty Martin's traveled with us that on the 4th of July, and he wrote that article that is in that Rodeo News. And he got quite an education that week.
Is that right? Okay. Okay. And for our listeners, and I'll put this up, there's a number of great pictures. When Marlon was rattling off all the names of everybody, including Ben Jordan, that was another picture. I'll make sure we get that up so you guys can see it. This is a Rodeo News December and January issue of 1980, and the title of the article is 8 in a Van, Carpooling on the Rodeo Trail. And there's a picture of the van, the blue van. And if you would go left to right, if you can, I know it might be hard to see.
Yeah.
Oh, let me blow this up.
Okay. On the far right, next to the big bullhorns, that's Rob McDonald. Next one is John Wilson, Ricky Stewart, who's Butch Stewart's little brother, Richard Yildy, and then the world champion bull rider Doyle Stanford, which was outstanding. And then myself, and then Jerry Easley right there. And Benny Jordan wasn't with us that weekend for some reason. But if I look at that blue van, and everybody had a little place to sleep that they liked best. I liked sleeping under the clothes rack because I could get up under there, and it was pretty safe.
Yeah.
I thought if we had a wreck, I figured the clothes would help.
Kind of like pillow, Sam.
Yeah, kind of like I did, huh? Yeah. Put blankets and pillows and everything up there when they're driving 110, thinking, that'll help me.
And that's used to when the Bulldoggers and stuff, they would have those 100-gallon gas tanks. And I saw a podcast the other day of, I think it was Fletcher, talking about how fast everybody went. If they'd have been a wreck with all that gas.
100 gallons of bomb, he said. Pick up bomb.
Yeah. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah.
It wasn't just going 110, because they did that. You traded drivers going down the road.
Without stopping.
Yeah. You could slide over, I'm going to slide in. And it wasn't just once in a while. It was fairly...
Yeah. But you had seat belts, you had the full seat.
Oh, yeah.
And all the protective gear that you needed, and you were careful. And you woke up if somebody got 4 wheels off. You woke up, right? Bishop was telling that story, right, about the truck and trailer off all 4 wheels off, and Lisa was driving, woke Bishop up.
Oh, yeah. And you can learn at a young age if you got barrel racers with you, just ease off the side of the road a little bit, let them stones hit. Hey, you tired? No, I'm okay. I'm good. No, pull this over. Pull it over. Oh, if I have to.
If I have to.
Yeah. And the barrel racers were always very cautious of traveling with rough stock riders because, not all the time was the gate closed sometimes for the horse.
You better check it yourselves.
Yeah. And then you retire at 35. That's a heck of a career.
33.
So that's what, 30, that's
16
years of going down the road. Hard. And really no other work other than that.
Just the cow pen work when we worked down there in Florida a little bit. And no, I didn't. I told everybody I never had a job till I was really 33, and
really?
They couldn't believe it.
Okay.
I said, well, I did have a job. I just didn't have a job.
Yeah. And so that means you got to be winning. You ain't paying entry fees. You ain't going down the road. You ain't putting money into the kitty.
You got to win.
You got to win.
You just didn't get retirement out of it.
No.
and all that Social Security you paid in on all that money.
I know. I can't remember until I
taxes.
started
What was
taxes.
that? Because everything was cash back then.
All cash.
Yeah.
All cash. And,
You didn't have you didn't have no money left. There just wasn't abundance of money. But that blue van, that group, we were successful into having money when we did come home for Christmas, and we had money to start the year. And we had to be a little frugal.
It was tough. There was a few people that did make money. I remember Kenny Phillips. He said, I'm going to go buy a new saddle and rigging this week. I said, why not? Why are you going to do that? The accountant says I need to spend some money. And he might be the only one I ever heard say that in the rodeo business.
Yeah.
Stock contractor or contestant.
Making too much money.
Yeah.
And I can remember when Dan first came down, Dan Daly, when he came down, he brought all these wolves with him. He brought Clint Corey with him, and
Pat Price.
Price.
There was a herd of those guys.
And when you now you're mixing and matching your analogies. So it's a wolf pack. It's a pack of wolves, Sam.
Yeah.
And why for our listeners, what are wolves?
They're hands.
Yeah.
People that can beat you anytime.
They're wolves, and they'll
Okay.
take every bit of your money.
No.
And when Dan came down, these guys, John Hammett, who won Madison Square Gardens, he brought all these guys with him. And then Clint Corey came down.
Yeah, he was about 2 years later, I think.
He brought Clint came down, and a lot of those guys followed him down, and they really just loved those indoor rodeos. Who wouldn't of Longhorns?
Yeah.
And they come for that. Once they got down there and seen all these great rodeos, and then they seen Florida in the winter, and we couldn't get them to go home.
Because they're coming out of Washington State, right? Out of the Northeast.
Yeah.
Or Northwest, anyway. Oregon.
I tried to buy him a bus ticket, but they
Did you?
No, but the bronc riding, it wasn't so heavy. But the bareback riding,
Yeah.
them guys, like Clint, when he first came down there, Clint probably weighed 140 pounds, if that.
Yeah, yeah.
I think, everybody was talking about him before he even showed up.
Oh,
They
really?
said, watch this kid ride.
Okay.
So I'm sitting on the fence. It was in Philadelphia. I remember it, and I thought, shit, look at the size of this kid. What's he gonna do?
Yeah.
Holy shit! I guess he showed me what he was gonna do.
He could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
could do
folks, it's such fast feet and lifted horses. He made horses that normal person couldn't place on. He'd win on them because
win
he'd
on 'em.
help them.
Yeah.
He lifted those
Yeah.
horses.
And once a lot of those PRCA guys discovered the IRA, they loved it. Like Bob Blackwood came, he was a finalist, and then Bob Mayo came,
Yeah.
and it got tough.
Oh, wow.
You put Clint and all them boys in there, and it was tough.
It would have, both associations, if they would have let you compete in both, it would have been such a great time. It would have helped the whole rodeo industry amazing.
Yeah,
Because,
good.
the Clint Coreys and those guys that had to make a choice, okay, I got to go to the PRCA and leave. He could have went over there, went back to these other rodeos like you can now.
Yeah.
But it would have just been fantastic for the whole rodeo industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. They wouldn't let you be in both. It was, people did funny stuff to try to do it, and I thought, well, that's too much effort. That's just going to be me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when they come back, like I say, Bob Blackwood was great. He had made the IFR, the NFR, and Bob Mayo, the Mayo boys, and
They were out of Iowa, right? I think so.
yeah, they were something else. And the IRA was tough. I got to tell you, in the heyday, it was a tough bunch of riders.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of bareback riders.
Yeah, you had Buddy Steverson, Chapman, Ralph Morgan, all of them 4-event people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they'd come in and wipe you out.
Yeah, we were talking about, at the fight over at Mountain Cove, Dub Grant, and all these people
Yeah.
were just outstanding.
And it goes back to you're only as good as your competition.
Yeah.
You had to get tough or go home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No ifs, ands, or buts. It was.
The IRA was tough. I got to tell you, the riders were outstanding, and I mean, you'd have slack in the bareback riding.
Yeah.
And we had stock was tough. It was just a good association and paid us good, and we loved it.
Yeah. And a lot of the basis of that were the winter rodeos, the Longhorns, right?
World's
Longhorn
toughest.
rodeos. World's toughest, Steve Gander, world's toughest, right?
Yeah.
And then the great stock contractors, all of whom you talked about.
Yeah.
Jay Barjay. And
See, and like at Madison Square Gardens, J-Bar had a big part of the horses there. And then when Gander had it, at Madison, World's Toughest Rodeo, it got Madison Square Gardens. That's when Mike Laddie brought in stuff. Still Zinzer bringing in stuff. So you were getting on the top stock at the top rodeos. And then Longhorn had their own stock too, which was really good. And that's where Old Panic came from, was from Mito Casavera. You know that big...
Oh,
is that right?
Yeah.
Panic came. Oh, whoa. We just talked to
Yeah.
Lenore, right? We just talked with her a week ago. Really, I had no idea. Panic came from there.
Panic came from Mito Casavera.
Okay.
And Panic made all of our lives miserable.
Okay. Did you ever get on Panic? Big old bareback horse, right?
I got on him 4 times.
You did?
I think. And
Yeah?
I won something on him at Nashville, but he was so hard to ride. In fact, one time I had him over there in one of those Virginia rodeos, and I had to go to the hospital for a kidney stone attack after I got off.
What? Jarred something loose.
I went to the emergency room, got a shot of Demerol because I was dying.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. I had
Caused
no
me
idea.
to have a kidney stone.
Yeah, I had no idea come out of that. So Illinois, that bronc come out of Illinois.
Yeah.
And Bruce being ahead of his time, not just in the promotional industry, but
Yeah.
he went out. He must have talked to the guys from Washington. He went out there and bought a truckload of horses and brought them back.
Okay.
And they were good horses.
Good
I mean,
horses.
the best horse, I only ever got on him twice. And I ain't saying the best horse I got on, but at the time he was the best horse. And his name was Raleigh Junction, and he came from a town or Corners or something of Raleigh Junction, Oregon. But and he came back with a truckload of great livestock. So
Oh, wow.
he wasn't afraid to spend the money.
Yeah.
And neat thing about Bruce is he had Bobby Rowe working his rodeos. And Bobby Rowe was the shoot boss, stock boss. He was everything. And his wonderful wife, Lenore, who was trick ride. I mean, she did her acts and stuff. And it was just quite a team of unbelievable. With Liesel, then you put Bobby Rowe as the shoot boss, stock boss, running it. Bruce, he just turned it over and let him run it. And
Jerry
Lenore,
Bellis on the mic.
how could you not be the
Yeah.
best show? And
You bet.
as I was telling you, about the circus publication, and I'd have to verify this with somebody a lot smarter than me, but I did read an article one time that Bruce's rodeos, the Longhorn rodeos, won this award every year in circus publication, which was all indoor entertainment, which included Holiday on Ice, Barnum and Bailey Circus, and Bruce won that award year after year for having the greatest indoor show.
You bet.
And that's pretty tough competition,
That's
Barnum
tough.
Bailey.
Yeah, absolutely.
And funny thing too about Bruce was so far ahead of his time, and the guy out there in California, the
Cotton Rosser.
Cotton Rosser, there were so many stories that Cotton Rosser would send spies to the east because he understood that in the east and the west you had to have a show. In Texas, you can get away with team roping all the time and bulldog, and they'd stay forever, never leave the rodeo. But on the east and the west, you had to have a show and entertainment, like Bill McEnany was so great, and his wife, and it had to be a show. So Cotton Rosser had said that. He said, I've learned a lot from Bruce Lurkey.
Yeah.
Now, when you say send a spy out, I wonder if there were a lot of bareback riders in those spies because they came from that part of the country.
I know it.
That could be why the bareback ride was so tough.
They had a job.
Yeah.
They got paid to be there.
And you couldn't film, so they were doing something.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Yeah.
And it still runs in the family because Reno was up at St. Tite a few years ago to watch the bull jumper that they had.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, and that's business. You're out seeing what will sell your product.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
For sure.
Fantastic.
And people, crowds that come to those rodeos were just huge. I remember the first rodeo that the Richfield Coliseum, that's where the Cleveland Cavaliers played.
Yep.
Well, Bruce put the first rodeo on in there. He put the first rodeo in the Philadelphia Spectrum. And he just took these rodeos to another height. And he'd worked for Loretta, so he knew the business. And then at first, Loretta, she had a nightly rodeo in Nashville 2 days a week for tourists to come to the rodeo. So you could go to an IRA rodeo every week in Nashville.
Yeah.
And Loretta would appear. And then Bruce, he just took this and went. And then I can remember her being in Monroe, Louisiana. And the two just went together. But when he broke out, he just broke out wide open.
Yeah. Wide open.
And great rodeos. You just didn't want to leave. You didn't want it to be
And
over.
talking about Cleveland, you're there. That rodeo, it was probably one of the first because it was only 4 hours from my house. But what a miserable one to get to because you come around them lakes, and
that time of the year,
January, it was January, and everybody else didn't have much trouble because they were coming up from the west.
Lake effect, isn't that what
you
that's
come
called?
around from the Buffalo way to get through Erie and to Cleveland, you're going to fight it the whole time.
And when you pulled into a Longhorn Rodeo, the IPRA, you just walked in there and the stock and the crowds, and you'd be there. You'd want to get there at 3 o'clock and just sit in the parking lot, talk to people, and you didn't want to leave. It was just an era of professionalism, and Gene Maynard was the pickup man, and Keith Freeman, and Gene Maynard was a world champion saddle bronc rider many times. Keith Freeman was the world champion steer wrestler, and his wife Nola was the secretary there for a long time there. And you talking about just hands. I mean, Gene Maynard, he could ride. He was a saddle bronc world champion saddle bronc rider and pickup man, and everybody was just so tough. And
I got a story about Gene.
Okay.
Now, I'm very first IRA rodeo I ever went to in my life, right? And a guy was going out west hauling some horse, asked if I wanted to go, and I said, yeah, any rodeos a long way, and I'm still in high school, right? He said, yeah, there's this one in Steelville, Missouri, just off where we're going. I said, well, I want in, and I hadn't been on probably 30 head, right? So I get to this rodeo, and I'm watching guys ride. Rob McDonald, Dan Daly, guys that you just seen in magazines, their name. And the contractor says, okay, Sam, don't pull till I get there. And I'm used to guys yelling at you, get ready. And he was serious. I couldn't pull till he got there. It was so different that I watched these guys ride, and it just, something clicked. And I won second, right?
Oh, wow.
Gene Maynard had a re-ride. And somebody said, well, Gene's got a re-ride. I said to the guy that said, yeah, but he's old.
Oh, my.
He could outride me any day of the week. It didn't matter how old he was. But I'm just thinking, here's a 16-year-old kid saying, oh, he's old. He can't beat me.
How old would he have been at that time, Sam?
He probably wasn't that old. He's probably 35-ish, Yeah.
And Gene, one night we were in Davisburg, Michigan, and we were been there a couple of days. We was having fun. So Gene, that night, he decides to put a bull in the chute and put his saddle bronc saddle on him. What a wreck. What a wreck. Tore his saddle off. But that's the way those guys were. They were from old school.
Well, in that time of the year, you don't have, that's the rodeo of the weekend, right? You're not hustling from rodeo to rodeo at that time of the year, so you can hang out a bit?
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes?
Yeah, it depends. In the early 80s, when I just first started going, the World's Toughest it was just starting to come on.
Okay.
So I never hung out at the Longhorn Rodeos. You'd always try to go to another one.
Because they're on the same weekend.
A lot of the time.
A lot of the time. Mm-hmm. And close enough you can get from one to the other, typically?
Yeah, the World's Toughest was out in the Midwest, and Longhorn usually stayed in the east and northeast in there.
Okay.
Yeah. Gander had the big rodeo there at Rosemont in Chicago.
Oh, Illinois.
Yeah. He had that one. That was a great rodeo, too.
Okay.
And he put on a great rodeo.
Oh, fantastic. Good
No
livestock and good show.
Okay. And we were talking a bit ago about Panic the Bronc. What about Nightmare? Jay Barges.
Yeah, Nightmare, that was the horse. When you see all these horses on the Cowboy Channel and they got night in them, that was the mare that started it all. And it goes back to her. And Jim and Maggie bought, I think it was a hack horse or something. They went down and bought her. And, God, she weighed 1,400, 1,500 pounds. And when she left, thank God that I never got on
No,
her.
wait a minute. Wait a minute.
I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
God said, Mar, you don't need to get on this horse. And I said, thank you, Lord.
Yeah.
And I never got on her because I told you I was scared. And I was scared thinking I was going to draw her every time I went up.
Oh, my goodness.
And when I won J-Bar Season Award, I don't know how all the rodeos I went to win that award, and I never had to get on it.
Oh, wow. Wow.
But there were so many others, 46 and 26 and 12, and every one of them were huge and ranked.
Yeah. And you saw Nightmare go, though.
Oh, yeah.
You were there during the height of her. She was 72, 73, 74, I believe, bucking horse of the bareback of the year.
Yeah. Saw Jimmy Cleveland at the IRA finals when they go around on her. I saw Mike Duplessis' brother-in-law get on him at one of those Michigan rodeos, and whoo, she just left there and she really bucked. But the point you had was that's where the breeding programs that you hear all this right now really got started with Jim and Maggie. And then they had the, you know more about it. I'd already quit when Night Latch and a lot of those came along. And so, but I actually think these breeding programs actually got started with Jim and Maggie.
Oh, is that right?
Would you say so?
Well,
Real organized, you mean?
yeah, I mean, they brought it to the level it is, and I'm sure there was guys that were doing it, but it was like, okay, my stud bucks, and I'm going to put them with my mares that buck and all that. Jim went out looking for, he had that mare that was so good, he looked for the right stud to put with her, which ended up, Night Jackets was its offspring.
Yeah.
And that's the one that 11, I don't know if it was 11 or 13 were in the 10th round at the NFR one year.
Yeah.
His offspring. Now that's
big.
That's incredible.
And talking about BTC on the road, June 1st, now I hope you're writing all this stuff down. June 1st, Sam, we're going to Houston's cow camp.
I'll be there no matter what for Eli's wedding.
Yeah, that's right.
He's
that's
like
right.
another son to me. So
Yep, one of the Rawhide crew running down the road. We talk to him all the time. And while we're there, hopefully, we can get with Jim and Maggie.
I hope so. Yep.
And I'm now friends on Facebook with Bobby Toad Cook.
Oh.
So if we can, and he's right there, so we got to get him around. Of course, the whole Houston family and everything going on up there. So go and get this nightmare story directly from Jim and Maggie.
Yep.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I'm very curious. You know, we know Nightmare was a great horse, but how did he go, or why did he go out and look for this stud to put with that mare?
Yep.
To see what it, and there was even an article. Somebody sent me an article saying, you know, we have found the stud to breed to this mare.
Okay, this is
pretty interesting.
Yeah, and a couple of years ago, I went out to Derby to the rigging rally, and Sparky was there. The one that, I guess he bought J-Bar J.
Yep.
And it was Fletcher, I, Keith Morgan, and Brian Nagby. We went to the rigging rally there at Derby, and Sparky heard that we were in the crowd, and he got up. He went out there and got us all and brought us to the back of the bucking chutes and got a picture made with some of them colts that he had without a Nightmare and Night Latch or whatever. And he called Maggie while we were there and said, I got all these IRA cowboys right here, and they got stories. And she said, I don't know if I believe that.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Oh, my.
He was so proud that we were there,
I'll bet.
and the respect he gave us was really great.
You bet. You bet. Well, we got the wheels turning. We got the bus rolling, Sam. This is the first weekend the bus has been out, as we've said, but it's got a lot going on this year.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Just think about it.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah. We're somewhere. We've been invited a lot of places, and we're going to get to them as many as we can.
Yep.
Well, I personally think you guys are on the right track. I know Bishop and I have talked about this, but, you know, for these guys, so many people that did so well and might have gotten forgotten if it hadn't have been for you guys to bring them, and the stories and the knowledge that they bring about the past of Longhorn, of these rodeos where we all evolved, Mr. Preston Folks, Bruce, Loretta. You guys are on the right track, and I really appreciate you doing it.
Well, we appreciate the support and the direction, the guidance. We're paying attention where you're telling us to go and who to go talk to. We go. So we're gonna continue it. We got the wheels to the bus go round and round, don't they, Sam?
I appreciate y'all coming to Scottsboro, North Alabama.
Yeah, it's been great. Been a great host. We thank you for that. Got a beautiful 71 Mustang Fastback over there, 351 Cleveland. Didn't we open the show this way? 351
so.
Cleveland.
Yeah. And about Scottsboro,
Yeah.
Alabama.
Yeah.
When I popped over that hill and seen that lake and all that,
Yeah.
it was like, wow.
Yeah.
This is
Isn't this a
pretty
nice
cool.
part of the world?
This is nice.
It's
yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
It is.
And Bishop was telling me that his mother lived right down here on this corner
In the two-story house.
in the two-story house, and that was the only.
She was 93 years old when she passed away. It's the only place she's ever lived.
Wow. Wow.
So a lot of history. That's why it's called the Clayton
Arnold Road.
Arnold Road.
It was my dad's.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a story on that, a boy from Franklin, Tennessee, a friend of ours, he saw a road sign in Franklin. So he stole the road sign and brought it down here. Daddy had it put up.
Now, wait a minute. This isn't. Oh, okay. Well, that's a different story than what I was imagining. Of course, Duncan Road. That makes sense, right? Right? Bishop, you're here at the end of it. Okay. Got it all together. Darn near didn't make it in with the bus, though, did we?
Well, I wondered why when I put this road in my GPS and said, Siri, go here, it was sending me to Thompson Station, Tennessee, up there by Franklin. And
That's right. It did.
That's the sign.
That's the sign.
I went, am I in the right town?
Do you know how many people have been lost since that happened? How many people wanted to go? Anyway, this has been a hoot.
Don Wade's the one that got it.
Well, we turned in and we got here. I'm not sure how we'll get turned around and get out, but we may be here for a while. We'll try to be out by Wednesday.
That suits me.
It's only, what's today?
Thursday.
Yeah, it's only, we'll be no more than a week. Pretty sure. So, coming back, Marlon, any injuries to speak of as you were riding, and what's ailing you today? Any of it related?
Well, I broke my leg 3 times. It cost me going to the IFR twice. Once, the one in Albuquerque, I missed it by $75 because of a broken leg, and then I went to the IFR, and then the next year I missed it by about $350, all because of broken legs. And this is when my friend Richard Johnson came to me and said, hey, you're riding those bulls. You're not that good. And why don't you just stick with the bareback riding? And ailing today, I'm doing real well. Actually, modern medicine is doing good. And when I talk about my friend Richard Johnson, he was just this outstanding bareback rider. He won the average that year at Albuquerque, and he was my mentor in a lot of ways to tell me. I had all these guys, Butch and Mike, and everybody was my mentor, but Richard was my really good friend that helped me get my first job. He worked for Ralgro IMC, and he was just always the guy that kind of took me under his wing, and he said, you ain't doing this right, and it's about time to quit and go to work. And he was that kind of guy, and he's no longer with us today, but I've talked to Butch several times about I wish I could see him, because it's just but I'm in good shape, actually, pretty good. I'm not going to win any foot races. And as long as I can sit in that boat and throw that fly rod, I'm okay.
And that's all about rhythm, right? That's all about timing. That's all about rhythm.
And as I was on the river yesterday for about 7 hours throwing that fly rod, and I thought, man, this is a great life.
How's your shoulder after a day of fly fishing?
A little sore.
Is it?
But we caught so many fish. It was great.
So you caught some brookies?
Yes,
and some rainbows.
And the river we were on was Tennessee's very first scenic river. It's over near Benton. It's called the Hiwassee, and it's a real wide river, and you can fish all day long and never go 4 miles when you go backwards and forwards. And it's wonderful.
Okay. And then after you quit riding, 33 years old, you get a real job. And you did that, you said, for 35 years?
Yeah. I went to work for a small company for about 4 years, and I didn't make any money. And at that time, I was still riding just a little bit. I was still judging and stuff like that. And then a major company hired me. They're called Behringer Ingelheim, which was Anchor Bioseutic, and they had black leg vaccines and all kinds of respiratory stuff. And I worked for them for 12 years, and I was the Southeastern Regional Manager for the cattle side. And then I got really lucky one day. A guy called me from the veterinarian division of Merck called Mary L., who had ivermectin, the manufacturer of it, and several Zymetron and Zymetron Gold and Gastrogard, Ulcergard. And they hired me to go to Kentucky as the equine specialist. And what a great job. I got to work on the backside of Churchill Downs and the backside of Keeneland, Arlington Racetrack in Chicago, and all the tracks in Cleveland. And my job would be to go to the racetrack in the morning, call on all the veterinarians, and then call on the thoroughbred farms in the afternoon. Talk about a dream job.
Yeah.
And getting to work with the greatest veterinarians in the world, and Rudin Riddle and Haggard Davis McGee, the Mayo Clinics of equine.
Yeah.
And these veterinarians treated me so good. They were so respectful to me, and a lot of times they just wanted to hear some rodeo stories. And I'd say, I'll tell you all you want. You're going to have to buy something.
Yeah. You have to give me an order. Yeah.
So I tell everybody, my wife, and I've told this story several times, when I was a young man, my dad said, you know, you're never going to get a quality woman until you get one of those 401ks. So I got this thing, and so when I met my wife, she was kind of playing hard to get, and I just said, hey, I got a 401k. And you know, she said, really?
Yeah.
I said, yeah. And we started dating 2 weeks later.
There you go. See?
He didn't even know what it meant, but he just said it.
But I got one.
And I failed to tell her I'd only been in it 2 weeks.
Well, he was right, wasn't he? Good bit of advice.
And so when I would go to all these places selling and everything, and my boss would go with me, everybody wanted to hear the 401k story.
Okay.
So my boss got so mad at me because, please just sell. Don't tell that story. I said they wanted to hear it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And
And
they're
it
still
helps
telling.
selling, doesn't
Yeah.
it? It helps.
Do they ever ask you, would you do it again? I'll beat up Mal. Would you do it again? Well, yeah.
Heck yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Great
I'd do it.
question.
I'd
Yeah.
do it again.
Yeah. Do it all again.
It was painful, but it was tough. But I tell you, it was the greatest time of my life. And besides my great job,
Yeah.
rodeoing was great.
Yes.
So Marlon is the Jerry Clower of the
Exactly.
horse wormer.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Because that's what he used to be, a salesman and tell the stories.
And part of the being a salesman is announcing rodeos, and you announced rodeos for a few years.
Yeah, I announced rodeos for 10 years, and 5 of them was for Preston Folks. I got to announce his rodeos. So, and then I judged for several years, but I told somebody one time, I've worked for the Folks family as pushing calves as a kid. I've judged their rodeos. I've announced their rodeos. I've roped at them. I rode bulls and barebacks at their rodeos, and they were just like a family to me, and a great family.
Yeah.
Folks
Did you
fans.
push steers and calves for entry fee?
Yes, I did.
I did too.
With Hartford, his brother,
Right.
and them calves were so mean.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't chew up back there.
Yeah.
They were big.
But it was great, the whole Folks family, and my years at going to Longhorns and Loretta's and all those rodeos up north of Laddings, J Bars, Big Hat, just Gerald Smith. What a great bunch of rodeos.
Yeah. Well, it's been great. Got a couple hot shot questions. These are fast fires, okay? Whatever comes up. And I'll just get you warmed up here. How do you take your coffee?
Cream.
Cream. Just cream. No
Just
sugar. Okay. Vacation time, mountains or the beach?
Mountains.
Mountains. Truck brand.
Ford man.
Better be Ford. You're driving your wife's truck here.
Ford man.
Beautiful truck, by the way. Here's one. If you were to start a podcast today, what would you call it?
life and times.
Of, they were just life and times.
The life and times of Johnny Concho.
Of Johnny Concho. And who would be your first guest?
Sam Swearingen.
Sam. All right,
And Bishop Arnold.
Okay, and Bishop Arnold. So, Bishop, if you had a podcast, what would you call it?
Lord have mercy. I don't know.
Oh, that's a good name. Lord have mercy. Is that it?
That'd be a good one.
That'd be a good one. Who would be your first guest?
Probably Buddy Stevers.
Buddy Stevers. Okay. Stevenson. Okay.
Great. Wonderful cowboy from
Yeah.
Mississippi.
Okay. From
had
Mississippi.
Had his own blue jean company.
Oh, we did.
I remember he had Buddy's Jeans.
Buddy's Jeans.
Buddy's Jeans.
Okay.
All-around cowboy.
Yeah.
4 events.
4 events.
Yep.
Okay, he'd be your first guest. All right, perfect. And here's the final question. If you could spend one day with a rodeo athlete, cowboy or cowgirl, living or not, who would it be?
Well, my days when I went up to Frontier and got to spend the day with my old hero and friend Butch Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
We fed 225 bucking horses that belonged to Jerry Nelson at Frontier.
Yep.
That was a great day to get to spend that day with my mentor.
Okay, excellent. Bishop, same question.
I'd like to spend it with him again.
Would you? Yeah, Lisa.
I would.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great? This has been perfect, guys. And I want to thank you both for being on here. And Marlon, to our listeners, Mountain Cove Cowboy Reunion. Got the Liars Cabin.
At the Liars Cabin that will be gathering on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And then Saturday night, people stay and go to the rodeo maybe or stay at the cabin. And then we have our church service starting at 10 o'clock. And we'll have church service at 10. Then we'll start gathering at the Mountain Cove Show Barn, which is very historic of that area. We'll start gathering about 11 o'clock. Lunch will be at 12. We ask for just contributions. No one is required to give any money or nothing. It's all on what people throw in the boot.
Perfect.
And we give away awards, recognize a lot of legends, and some people don't leave for 2 or 3 more days.
Okay.
They just stay. And everybody is invited. Everybody.
Okay. Everybody's invited. And we hope that you enjoyed this episode of our podcast with Mr. Marlon Harris. If you do, please share it with your friends. Nothing like word of mouth to help get this out. If you got somebody that's got a phone, help them find it on their phone, whether it's an iPhone, you can find it on Apple Podcasts, a Pixel phone, whatever it is. We're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, all the major services out there. So search for Beyond the Chutes. You can do that on Google. Just keep it real simple. Search for Beyond the Chutes. Find your service and follow us. Like us. Rate us. Give us comments. Let us hear from you. And if you like Reels, Facebook Reels, we got Reels. Whole bunch of them. You can check them out on Beyond the Chutes, our Facebook page. Click, follow. Again, leave us comments. Let us know. And thank you to Parasite System for their support with our podcast. Parasite System is a push-button parasitic diagnostic system for pasture animals, horses, cattle, goats, sheep, chickens, and for your companion animals now, what they call the all-in-one for your dogs and cats. You can find them at parasitesystems.com. And if your local vet doesn't have a device, we have got it set up to where you can mail in your large animal samples to Parasite directly, and you do that, you can get your kits from parasitesystem.com, and they will send them to you, and use this coupon code BTC023 for 50% off your kits. Mail them in, they'll do the testing, they'll send you an email with the results of your particular test. And a big thank you to the IRA Project Facebook group for all their help and guidance in making this possible. This is Beyond the Chutes with
Marlon Harris.
And
Bishop Arnold.
And
Sam Swearingen.
Until next time, this is Doug Simcox. Thank you for listening.